Welcome to the GrayHawk DJC podcast. In today's podcast, we talk with Teresa Saffold, owner of Power Bar Women's Fitness in Dallas, Texas, to hear her story on how she started her business. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Hey, Teresa.
Hey, David.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Thank you so much for doing the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Sure. I've actually known you for a little bit because you've participated in our past events.
Yes.
Just to start off, I guess you're a pet lover, right?
Yes, very much so.
How many dogs or cats do you have?
Well, I have a dog.
Okay.
And new acquired cat, which I've never had before. So it's been a journey getting to know the cat world.
Okay. Well, Thank you for taking part in our charity events in the past. For anyone who's watching, Teresa and her team has always come out and supported our fundraising events for a local pet shelter here in town called Operation Kindness. And that's how I met you, so thank you for all of that.
Yes.
But how about we start off and you tell us about, where you're from, how you got started, and just so people can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So I am from a little all over. I was born and grew up till about 10 or 11 years old in California. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Virginia Beach. So from coast to coast.
Okay.
And I did all of my normal, just regular school there, graduated high school. And then I left and came here in Dallas, came to Dallas 2007.
Okay. What brought you to Dallas?
Economics. I think it was just a better place to be, to grow. I was 23 at the time. Mm-hmm. And when I moved here, within 1 month, I got back into college. I bought a house and I got a higher paying job. Mm-hmm. So Dallas has a lot to offer. So I moved out here.
All right.
Yeah. And that's where I was staying in the banking career. I had my background professional career is banking. So that's
so you had a real 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And you didn't like that, or what made you?
So when I went to school, I went for criminal justice, mm-hmm. and I was thinking I wanted to be a social worker, and I was like, no, I don't want to be a social worker. But then I had all this banking career, all this experience from retail banking, and then I went into sales in the banking industry. So I was like, I'm gonna merge these two worlds together. And my ultimate goal was to be a fraud analyst.
Okay.
So right when I got there, I realized this is it. This is not necessarily what I thought it would be. And then I also started to realize how small the top gets and how less opportunity there is to get more, Right. So I was like, I started looking into entrepreneurship, which has always been a passion of mine. I've just been super scared about it.
Mm-hmm. So did something happen that made you take that next step?
Yeah, so I was a banker by day and a pole dancer by night, meaning just as a student. Uh-huh. And because it always gave me that creative outlet. Okay. And I knew as soon as I took a few classes that I at least wanted to teach it. Okay. And I was still had that entrepreneur bug from a child, mm-hmm. but I just never knew what I wanted to do. Right. So after years of teaching, and then I was managing the studio I was teaching at, mm-hmm. I realized one day this is going to be the pathway for my entrepreneurship. Okay. And the studio that I was at, the owner at the time, she had developed more of a passion, I guess, for her education side. Mm-hmm. And so I was managing it, and she wasn't in the country. So from that, I was like, I'm going to go and start my own. And she was a real big mentor to me. So she sold me the company, mm-hmm. and helped me for a year with mentorship. And that's where I went to entrepreneurship. So that's what happened.
As soon as that happened, did you quit your banking job at first? Or did you continue both?
Wasn't my plan.
Okay.
What happened was I felt like, okay, I will do my banking because I felt safe. Right. I never understood how people can run a business and just rely on their business for a paycheck. I felt like I needed somebody to give me a check every 2 weeks. Right. And so I was like, I'm just going to do this on the side. It'd just be a little side business. And I just started to realize that, hey, I really like this. And being at this job, I can't be there for my clients that are calling and emailing. Right. So I talked to my family and prayed about it, and I got a lot of support, and I took the leap and just quit.
How'd that make you feel?
I was scared. Like, I remember the night I put my 2 weeks in, I laid in bed. I was like, what did I do? It was scary. Yeah.
And that decision to put your 2 weeks in, was it just really quick? Did you wait a long time for it? Like, what was that actual spark that made you
I remember like literally wanting to just work on my business. And I realized like I was trying to work on my business, but then work the job, and I was like, that's not fair. Like, my morals were like, that's not right. You know, like, I need to be all in. And so I feel like when, you know, I'm very spiritual. I love the Lord. So I was like, I feel like when God wants you to do something, like, he will make things very uncomfortable for you until he pushes you out to where you need to be. And so like there was started to be conflict at the job. So I knew, I was like, well, if I'm sitting here working on my business, then they're probably going to tell on me, and then I'll get fired. I'm going to leave. So that's kind of the nest started to get a little ruffled. Sure. And I was like, I got to get out of here.
Right. So you've quit your job. What's that first year like?
It was fun. It was very fun. I couldn't wait to get to year 2 because I felt like when I get to year 2, I'll have a comparison year. But the first year was really fun, like just delving all in, lots of education, learning, talking to the clients and to the staff. I don't even remember it being scary because I was just all in. Right.
Was it hard to pay the bills? How were the clients? Were they coming in? Were you happy with where you were financially, I guess?
So when the business that I acquired, it was like a sublease situation. And so I really kind of wasn't on my own. Okay. And then like 6 months into it, I was like, I'm going all in. I'm going on my own. And that was scary for me. Okay. That was more so scary. Like, okay, now this is me on the lease. And so that took a lot of hustle. But no, clients did trickle in, and just taking care of clients, they told other people, and just being really busy, like just trying to figure different things out to bring folks in. That's really what year 1 was. But I don't remember being scared. I do remember consistently seeing increase.
I see. That's good.
Yeah.
How did you raise the money to get that first round of funding when you bought the business?
Ooh, I did what probably no financial advisor would ever recommend. And I just cashed out like any 401k and all that. And that's really what I did.
Wow. So you were
all in. It was make it or go back to like working land. So I was all in.
Wow, that's awesome. That's inspirational. I mean, that's awesome. So tell us about the pole dancing fitness business. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions or some biases about it. So give us your, what you've experienced and what it is actually.
So definitely, I think it's come around way more than it was when I first started. I remember even when I first started, like I said, I was a student and I was in the corporate world, and they were like, pole dancing, what's that? And you like kind of lived in fear that your job would find out. Right. It's not like that anymore, at least for the majority. But the way you can approach it different ways, there is your exotic dancer style and market. There is also a true like fitness competitive market. And our company, Power Bar Women's Fitness, likes to approach it from a lifestyle community market. It's another platform for fitness. It's total body. I mean, you get everything from strength training to cardio, flexibility. And you also it's also a place where you can allow your creativity to just run wild. So that's the way that we approach it as a community, as a group fitness. It's low impact, and we give people programs to go through, and we treat it just as a part of your daily life for physical fitness.
What's the type of program you guys have then?
The program specifically is called Bar Level Series. Okay. We run it from beginner to intermediary to advanced. It's a 4-week session, and it encompasses your traditional workout to make sure that you're strong enough for what you're going to learn, as well as developing the muscles to support, your pole journey. And then we break it out into a flexibility session because you need that limberness to be able to move your body in certain ways. And then we also teach pole tricks for that level, and then we tie them all together in choreography to help with the cardio endurance and also your ability to have muscle endurance.
So because some of the videos I've seen to do some of those tricks, they're incredibly strong, right? It's almost like magic, right? I don't understand how these folks can do. I saw a lady, she's just grabbing it with one arm, and she's stepping up the pole. How's that possible?
Yeah.
So what do you need for that?
So it's definitely a challenge, and it's definitely something you work towards. It's a lot of muscle engagement, and normally we don't have that, right? When we wake up, we just our muscles just are trained to work a certain way, and we don't have to think about how we're using our muscles. Where pole is different because you're learning how to be kind of one with your muscle and just let your muscles work in a way that you're trying to get them to go. So it's different. And that to me is that's the struggle in a student's session. And once we get past that point, then they start learning, and then it's just training from there.
Right. Yeah. How much bias do you still see from the exotic part to the fitness part? Do you still get a lot of pushback, or do people kind of give you the crooked eye or anything like that? Or?
I don't think so, at least not to me in my face. I don't know. I mean, I'm always definitely the hottest topic in the room. If it's a business mixer or a networking event, it's always, pole dancing. And they just want to learn so much about the industry.
Right.
But I wouldn't say that it's you don't belong in here, get out. I think that's, with our culture now and just the societal norms, I just think that's kind of not as much.
Right. So right now, give us a sense of what your day-to-day week is like. So I know we're here on a Sunday morning. There's no one here. Would you normally be here kind of doing anything, or how's the unglamorous part of it?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily be on site. I do a lot of the background parts of the business. We do have a whole team here. We do have classes every day. It just really depends. I mean, you can find me everywhere. As a CEO, I'm in everything. And it just depends on what we got going on. If we have events coming up, if, there's training that needs to be done, we have those different things. Typically on Sundays, as of now, I run the Polepreneur course. And that's that program designed to teach people how to be their own pole boss. And that's really the next steps that I've taken in my business. When I started, I went from teaching and being the face every single day and, training the team and doing everything, sweeping the floors, cleaning the mirrors, doing the marketing, all of that. And now I have a good team, a good solid team. So we all pitch in those efforts, and it gives me the opportunity to spend more time on actually growing those who are interested in making this a career.
Tell us more about this Polepreneur.
So as you know, pole is fairly new as far as the industry is concerned when it comes to a career choice in a way that's open to the public and not necessarily exotic dancer. So there's a lot of interest for those that want to add this either as an additional discipline in their already fitness resume, or they also may just be in love with pole, and they get to a place in their journey with pole where it's you know what? I love what pole has done for me. I love the confidence it's given me, and I want to pour back into someone else. And that's at that time where we'll take people in and we will train them, not just how to teach a trick, but how to reach people in a way that actually gives them success, how to build community, how to find your target market, and just overall how to carry yourself as a pole professional to get results for your client and for you.
Okay. And these are independent like contractors, or do they go out and set up their own studios?
Some can definitely do that.
Okay.
Some, like I said, just want to kind of add that to their already fitness resume. Some do come on board as coaches for Power Bar Women's Fitness or pole party hostess for the party side that I run. So it just kind of depends.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Has it been very successful? Do you get a lot of people asking for this? How many a week, or how's that going?
Yes, it's definitely been successful. I started this actually in COVID.
Okay.
And that's really where it came from. During COVID, obviously I felt like this is probably a big eye opener for a lot of folks where they're like, hey, I could use a second income.
Right.
So I started that, and since then I've trained over 20 people. So I don't overstuff those courses simply because I want people to actually get that individualized attention. And like I said, it's a 4-week session. So
do you like the mentoring part better or running the business better? How's that?
I haven't quite yet decided. I do. I'm a business fanatic though. I love the game of business. I love the challenges and the just really just dominating in what you do. And that's really what I love about business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you brought up COVID, and that's the big topic of the country.
Yeah.
We're kind of coming out of it now, but as a small company, how was COVID? How did you get through it?
So that's the thing about being an artist that has a paid hobby and being a business owner. When you're an artist and you're doing something for a paid hobby, a lot of the times when it's time to put on your business suit, right, you kind of don't know what to do. So when COVID happened, because I love the business side of it and I study a lot of business leaders, I understood even before that happened that there are times in your business that you have to be able to pivot and reinvent to be able to survive. Okay. And you have to anticipate things. And so I was able to really anticipate the journey ahead once that started happening. Even before we got shut down, I was like, oh, okay. So I came up with some online classes and we did a lot of that stuff, and then the Polepreneur course.
So how bad was COVID for you? Did you come close to having to shut down? Or
no.
It never came out?
No.
But I guess the events and the clients, they kind of dropped off a little bit, did they?
It was shocking even for me because the clients, they were like, we are ready to get back in. I remember it was March 16th that I pulled the plug and I was like, we're going to shut classes down. Right. And I remember getting some backlash from that. And that was even before, the governor and the federal mandates.
You were mandated to shut down, right?
Not at that time. Okay. I did it just as an abundance of caution. And I remember getting some backlash about that because people really wanted to just come to the studio. And so our market, we have some very loyal pole dancers. So yeah, they were really happy to come back in.
So during the shutdown, how long was that for, by the way?
I want to say 2 to 3 months maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what were you doing during the shutdown, I guess?
Online classes and the Polepreneur course.
Okay. So they were still coming to the online classes?
Yes,
your clients?
they were.
Okay. Do they have the equipment at home? How do they?
We did a lot of non-pole classes. So there's a lot more than just the pole itself. There are other styles of dance that we do that develop even your movement on the pole. So that's when we use that time to concentrate on that. And then we did pole classes for those that do have poles at home.
Okay.
And so during that time, I remember seeing a news article about how poles were just selling off the shelves because people were locked in their house, right? You couldn't get baking supplies and you couldn't get a pole.
Okay. So of the clients, how many do you think have poles in their houses then?
It's still it's definitely still a growing market for the poles. Okay. I couldn't put a number on that, but if I had to guess, I'd say maybe 30%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's some challenges when it comes to polls in the house.
So your instructors and you guys were literally on camera, and they were following along at home?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So what are some other challenges you had to face, or did it pretty much go smoothly for you during the last year?
Yeah, I can't say that it was a challenge. I'm going to say that, but I can't say that it was something that I feel like we weren't going to be able to get through. I felt that we treated people really good in our community prior. So I felt like they understood our what we were up against,
right,
and were very, very supportive.
Okay. Are things picking back up now, I guess?
Oh, yeah.
How's your schedule's packed, I'm assuming?
Yes. Back to wait list, which creates us, more classes. So we'll add more to alleviate that. But yes, we're definitely picking back up.
I see. And what do you see, Power Bar in the next year or two then?
Yeah. So with Power Bar, we're definitely getting back out into the community as the community opens back up. Doing more collaborations and being a partner in business. Definitely doing more to our community, giving more opportunity for those that want to come in and have a side job, doing what they love. Definitely more growth.
Okay. More studios, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Because you have 2 right now, right?
I have 4.
You have 4? Mm-hmm. Wait, so I know the one in Arlington.
Yeah.
And then here in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have these 2 in Dallas, and then we have Arlington and Haltom City, which is our Fort Worth market.
Oh, wow. And so are you going back and forth the whole time?
No, we have a really good, solid leadership team, and they are the ones that really just live the brand out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any Power Bars outside of DFW one day, or
one day? Yeah.
So you're thinking that big?
Yes, definitely national.
Right. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Are you talking to folks to help you with that, or you?
I do have some prospects.
Okay.
But I don't have anything solid right now.
Okay, so no, I can't reveal any secrets, I guess.
I know.
Okay. But how about, let's talk about you then. What are you into? Tell us about yourself. What are your hobbies or anything like that?
So I am a wife and a mother. I've been married for 13 years. We always laugh because I'm like, when was it? I'm the friend that will forget your birthday. I'm just bad at dates. I'm sorry. But yeah, so we've been together and married for about 13 years. And we have 2 teenagers pretty much. So my daughter is a basketball. She's a basketball player, pretty heavy in that world. So a lot of supporting her in her games. My son is budding into his athleticism. He's getting ready to turn 12.
Okay.
And so right now he's doing some boxing and MMA stuff. So definitely supporting him in that. Really, I just, outside of the companies, I spend a lot of time just family, really family. I'm adventurous, so I love comedy shows, or I like to go walking when it's nice outside and do some of that stuff. But other than that, pretty easygoing.
So what are some of the challenges of being a mom and then being a businesswoman? Do they conflict a lot, or?
No, I have been blessed with a really strong family.
Okay.
My husband helps tremendously in the business. My daughter has now become an employee on one of the sides, so I'm her first job for her. And so my son is peeking like, what can I do, So I mean, we're a solid family with a lot of support, and we support each other's initiatives. So I don't have that like tug of war with like, well, you're spending too much time and you're this and you're that. I try to make sure that I'm conscious about giving time to my family that's not business related.
Would you encourage your kids to start their own businesses one day, or would you have to tell them to go into the workforce, I guess?
No, it's not anything wrong with the workforce. I think if you do it with a end goal in mind, but I do feel like, because like working in the workforce, it has its pros, right? But it also has its cons. And I think if you have big visions, it you'll find more of the cons on that side.
Right.
So, but in the interim, if you don't really know what you want to do, I think the workforce is a beautiful place to be, so you can find out whether or not this is something you want to invest everything into. Because when you run a business, like, you have to be all in. It's not, I don't like this anymore, I quit, here's my 2 weeks. It's, you have to be all in.
Right.
So I would prefer them to have their own business, and I think both of them are set on that. When I talk to them and ask them, they're like, no, I want to own my own business, I don't want to work for somebody. And I think it's because they like the freedom that it brings them.
Right. So a lot of people that I've come across who want to start their own company, it's that final step where they're all in. What advice do you have for them to take that next step? Because obviously they're scared. If they have family or people they have to support, they don't have that security of that 2-week paycheck, right? What's your advice on how to mentally get over that and just take that leap of faith, I guess?
Well, one thing that's always been comforting to me is there's never a perfect time. And with that in mind, like, it's always going to be something. And I think if you really think about it, like, that is being a business owner, is overcoming challenges. It is figuring it out. And I think that if you can't figure that first step out, and you're super scared to do that, then you'll be very indecisive as a business owner to figure out that. Like, there's a level of risk taking that you have to say, I am 2,000% all in. It's make it. It's make it. Like, failure is not an option.
Right.
But I think to get to that point, you have to know what you're getting. You have to know what you're getting into. Like, you have to say, I know the industry well enough. I have the skill sets, or I have the capital to hire those that do have the skill sets, and that I'm doing it for the right reason. Because I don't care what business you run, it gets hard. Like, even if you open up your own business and you take your own entrepreneurship journey and you just go off like super, super, super successful, well, then people are going to start coming at you with rules and regulations and legal hurdles, and and you can't run just because it's hard.
Right.
So you have to say, I'm in it for the right reasons, and I'm willing to do this, to the very end. And I think when you get solid on that and you realize that you'll do whatever it takes, I think that should be able to get you over that hurdle.
Okay.
But I definitely think it's going to be a time where you're just going to have to pull the trigger on it.
What do you say to people that say, well, she can say this because she's made it? I'm struggling at my work, but I know I want to do this. It's easy for her to say because she's already done it. How do I do this? Right. Yeah.
I don't think that anybody you see has made it. I think you make it every day. And I think we saw that with COVID. I think that should have been the biggest eye-opener for a lot of people. You had businesses that you thought were just super, super, super successful, and 1 month into COVID and they're out of business. And it's because that's the real life of an entrepreneur. You don't just make it and you're done. It's not about getting on top, it's about staying on top. So it's a make it every day that you get up. And I think that's the reality of it. So it's not like, oh, once I cross that line, I can sit down and just relax forever.
Right.
So the business owners that you see that are successful, there's still the same, it's the same thing, just in a different field, right? Like that you're battling to make it, to make the next step. So they might be battling to make the first step, but we're battling to make the next step. So there's never really
Do you find yourself thinking about what to do next all the time throughout the day?
I definitely do it very frequently. You always have to be progressing, and that's just the nature of who we are as a company. We're about growth and progression. But I think that you also have to spend time in implementation, right? Less innovating and more implementing. So I think you got to make sure you got that balance.
Right. So it seems like what Power Bar does really well is it creates this sense of community.
Yes.
Right. People kind of want to be a part of this. How did you cultivate that, or what advice do you give people to do that?
Yeah. So when I was, how did I cultivate it? I'll tell you real quick on that. When I was growing up, I had like a really bad skin condition. So it stopped me from wanting to do things like flag or play basketball or whatever. Because if you had to wear a certain uniform, I was like, I'm not doing that. So for a long time I struggled with that, and so I wasn't one that would just walk in a room and just feel like I fit, right? Like whether it's body, whether it's skin, like whatever. So for me, like taking a pole class was incredibly intimidating.
Right.
I was looking heavily at like which studio looks like I fit in, because I'm not coming in there with like a bikini and like, just showing everything. And so I took that with me when I created Power Bar.
Okay.
I wanted a community that was something that I don't care what you look like, I don't care your body shape, I don't care your experience, I don't care if you can't dance, I don't care if you've never danced, I don't care if you have a skin condition, like just come in, right, with scars and weight and whatever, right, 2 left feet, and you will feel a part of here with no judgment and the ability to actually grow and just relax and just like take down your guard and not be judged. So that is a passion that I pour into the company, and even to the coaches that work here. I make it very adamant, and we all do, that it's not about us, it's about the client.
Right.
And I think with that, it just naturally and organically cultivates that.
Okay, wow, that's incredibly inspirational.
Thank you.
Tell us a time where you were really struggling. Was there any bad things that happened that you were kind of taken off guard and, thinking, wow, this is going to be hard to get through? Do you have any of those stories? So
after, I think this is, I always tell people like that when I'm in these conversations about like making business decisions, I'm very impatient. Okay. So I have big dreams, and I'm pretty impatient. Okay. So I made some decisions in my first 3 years, around the 3rd year mark. I was doing really well year 1, year 2, in year 3. And I was like at 3 or 4 locations, just really well. And I made the right decisions for the business, but at the wrong time.
Okay.
Like I made big corporate decisions, but I was still not as liquid enough as I should have been to be able to support those decisions. And it was really just my impatience. And I think that's what separates like the wealthy from, your everyday earner, is because the wealthy can wait things out, and they plan the wealthy probably have things planned for 2023, and we're just barely trying to make it through 2021, so I think that was the biggest mindset shift, is to say, hey, you're going to be in this situation for a while, and take your time as you're doing this, and don't overfund your business. Don't do stuff like that could get you in troubled waters. So
did you take on more debt or something like that?
Yeah, I did. Okay. And there was I attended this Tony Robbins seminar, and he had a man there named Keith Cunningham, and he said one sentence to me that it was just like I needed that like 2 years ago, but not that I would have listened then. But he said, "Do not scale chaos."
Right. Okay.
And that's what happened.
What does that mean?
So, and this happens a lot, right? Because you get, you get a business owner. I have this location. I have this location. I have this location. I have this location. And you want to make sure before you start like trying to expand that what you have there is solid as like a rock. Like It's just solid. Like it's duplicatable, that it's proven, and that the formula is down tight. And I think that that's really kind of what he meant. Like, if you're a little messy and disorganized, don't keep duplicating yourself. Slow down, stop, and make sure all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed.
Right.
And because then it becomes so much chaos, right, that it's hard to... It's like, if you have, like, I'll use this analogy. If you live in like a 600 square foot apartment and you struggle to keep that clean, like, and you go and live in a 3,000 square foot house, you're just going to have more junk.
3,000 square foot
of mess, right? So I think that's really the best way to put it.
Wow. So as you grow then, do you think the further away the business gets away from you, because the more locations you have, obviously you're going to be more spread out, do you think you're going to lose that Teresa touch?
No, I think it's how you grow.
Okay.
And I think it's your internal processes. I do think there is a line that you'll cross where you do become more commercialized.
Right.
And that's just for the sake of consistency. And I think at that point, like, you really have to be solid on your story, on your brand, and what you do as a brand.
Right.
Because that's what people will come for. But as of right now, I don't think so. And I don't think that a company scaled the right way would ever lose the touch of its founders unless you step outside of those principles intentionally.
Right. So your story has been inspirational, like I said. I love the message you have with the community, letting everyone come in, regardless of shape, size, whether they can dance or not. The last thing I wanted to ask you is, for someone who's just about to start with whatever they want, like a company, what's your advice to them?
Just about to start.
Yeah.
I have a few pieces of advice. My first one will be on an emotional standpoint. You need to be careful on how much you divulge to people around you. Because...
Like, what do you mean?
Like, your spirit is very sensitive to criticism when you're very young in business. And the wrong thing said to you, even if it's coming from a good place by someone you love, could really create seeds of doubt that can prevent you from being what you really could be.
Right.
And I think that's something I have a few people that I've had in my path that have begun this journey with me, one even down to owning a studio. And that was one of the first pieces of advice I said, is like, stop, because they would tell me like, oh, my family is negative, or they're doubtful, or they're well, what if this and what if that, stop talking to them, at least about this.
Okay.
And I did the same thing. When I decided to change and leave that job and come and do this full time, I think I stopped at this point. I told a coworker that I used to work with, I said, I'm doing this full time, and they was like, don't quit your day job. And I was like, wow, like, but look at what it's become.
Right.
So I made at that point, I'm not telling anybody that even if I thought you would say something negative, I'm not telling you until I'm done.
Right.
And I think that would be one of the best pieces of advice I can give, at least from an emotional standpoint. Like, you have to be very careful who you let in to your like inspiration bubble. The other part that I would say is, I have two other pieces of advice. The other part would be that you need to educate yourself extensively. They need to take homework. Like, even not just even on the market, but just business in general. Like, really just follow some business leaders. Like, it doesn't have to be like you go to a school, but maybe like pull up YouTube, or they call it like the mobile university. So when you're driving in your car, like, read audiobooks and stuff like that, that deal with business. And the E-Myth is one of the first books that I definitely recommend. The E-Myth.
Okay.
And then, by Michael Gerber. And then the third thing that I would highly suggest is, as you start your business, to document everything.
Can you give examples of that? Like,
so as you start your business, and this is part of the E-Myth to me as well. I think the success from running a business comes from you building a team. Mm-hmm. And if you don't document things and everything is ran out of your head, it's hard to give your team the tools to be successful. Okay. And so as you start documenting things, you want to make sure that, or as you start doing things and you see things are working, you want to make sure that you already have that in a process. You can come back to that. Hey, this worked. Hey, this didn't work. Hey, let's change this. And then when you're ready to grow to another leg of your business and you're ready to bring someone in, you already have it packaged for them to help you in a light that will maintain that success. Okay.
Wow. Well, Teresa, this has been some great advice.
Thank you.
I really love your story. Thank you for helping us with all these, coming to our events, as I said. But I think people will see this and really love what you have to say and what you're about. So thank you again. How about in a year or so we come back and see where you are?
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, and we'll continue this storyline. But this was awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome,
and
David.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Sure. All right.